Good morning everyone. In this video I'm going to be analysing the live price action for EU and DXY to see what opportunities there may be today. You're going to see my strategy and my analysis, so if you're interested in those then please stick around. Right, starting off here on the daily chart, we got EU on the top, DXY on the bottom. So what's there to see on the daily chart? Well, we can see yesterday we closed out as a bullish candle. However, it was also an inside bar, like we failed to go beyond the previous daily high or low of the Friday. So closed as a bullish candle but inside bar, so sort of like an internal range there we'll probably see on the lower time frame, and we're still within the discount of this daily leg here. So although we spiked up into that equilibrium, we're still closing within that discount. Now today so far you can see we're quite bearish already today. I think we have just about swept the previous daily low, but we'll see that on the lower time frame. Now on DXY, same thing, closed out yesterday, bearish candle, so inverse to EU. It was also an inside bar candle, and today we're bullish. However, we are nowhere near the previous daily high, so there'll be some sort of divergence there on the lower time frames. And again, of course, we still have our premium imbalances and order blocks and our discount imbalance and order blocks. So let's go down to the 4-hour and see what that shows. So after pulling back on the Friday and mitigating that daily POI and also sweeping sell side liquidity, my thoughts were that we should and would go for some buy side liquidity, which likely would be resting above this previous weekly high. So far we haven't. As I said, we closed as an inside bar yesterday, so as you can see we just ranged within this range here and closed out, and now we're into today. That does give a bit more doubt and a bit more confusion into the analysis. Of course, we took that sell side liquidity and we failed to go on and make that higher high, and we ranged a little bit, so there's a bit of indecision on price. However, so far today again we have now, it's ever so slightly swept that previous daily low, sell side liquidity. So we'll see what comes of that, right? We should head up towards some sort of buy side liquidity or POI from this area. Now inversely, if we head over to DXY, after we mitigated the buy side liquidity above these highs, we came down bearish, but we refused to make a lower low just yet, and those lows were saved. And as you can see, we did the same thing, had a sort of internal range yesterday, and now we're bullish into today. Although it's not our previous daily high, we are now above this high. As you can see on the 4-hour, it will be clearer on the 1-hour. So that's some buy side liquidity there. So overall we do look possibly bearish here, but we'll see how price goes, of course. We'll see if this is maybe a weak low or where price stalls. I don't believe we've confirmed yet, even though we had this spike, which is essentially a lower low after making that higher high. Until we make another lower low and close out below that, I'm not going to make any decision that that internal trend now has changed to bearish and we're going to continue with that higher time frame one. So that's just my thoughts on that. Let's go down to the 1-hour and see what that shows us. Right, so on this 1-hour chart, let's explain this price action a bit more. As I said, we made that new higher high, swept buy side liquidity, came down bearish into that daily POI, sweeping sell side liquidity, and we had the bullish move from there. This sell side liquidity sweep from this low here has so far failed to make a higher high. This is why I've got this note, possible weak low. Once it fails to make a higher high, it's possibly a weak low. Okay, so we did create this internal range. As I said, we had an inside bar day, so we didn't actually go anywhere in comparison to this range. We closed off inside of it. So we have created this sort of internal range here. And as I said, that gives a bit of indecision on which direction we're going to go to. At the moment, we're in a possible weak low scenario. It's not confirmed yet, of course, but that's how price is looking. You can see just here on the 1-hour how we have just about swept below that previous daily low. That may be all we need now to go and seek out buy side liquidity. There's not much of a sweep, as you can see. So just to discuss the possible weekly low some more, we've made this possible lower high, and then internally, you know, we've made this low, this possible high low, then we made a lower high again, and now it looks like we may make a lower low. So it may be playing out that now in this range that we're going to create that structure to make ourselves a lower low. But just for now, I don't think that's certain yet. And I'll tell you why, because on DXY here, the inverse now, we still have this 1 hour POI left behind. So yesterday there was quite a lot of divergence in price. We left behind this 1 hour POI. We had a much wider imbalance here, and we left an inducement there, you could say. Didn't make that lower low, and we've pulled up overnight correctively. So the way I see it, this 1 hour POI here could still provide some sort of resistance. And with the sell side liquidity from the previous daily low sponsorship, and we've taken buy side liquidity here, if we went and mitigated this 1 hour POI as well, and that would just sweep this previous daily low just that bit more to make it a bit clear, we'd have confidences stacked at this point here to say, okay, we may have a bullish move from this area. It doesn't need to be sustained, but it'd be enough for us to have confidences probably for a trade. It just so happens that maybe this will be the sell side liquidity and the confidence needed after filling this imbalance here for DXY to continue going lower towards its previous daily low, previous weekly low, and for EU obviously to go for that previous daily high, previous weekly high. So I don't think it's over just yet, though we are painting some sort of bearish reversal picture here with a possible weak low. So a bit indecisive, but I do see trading opportunities around this area here. So let's go down to the M15 and see if there's any opportunities that we can see today. One thing to note is we do have some news later on today in the New York session, and some orange folder news during London at like 10 AM. So I don't know how much that orange folder news will affect price, but price may or may not stick around and just build liquidity in preparation for the New York news announcements. So hopefully not, but we'll see. Just something to be aware of. To today's price action, you can see overnight and into Asia, we've continued with this bearish order flow, which is quite corrective. You can almost see this as a buy side liquidity trend line. So we'll see how price reacts. This is my first area of possible trade, right? Like I mentioned, we have our 1 hour POI here. We have inducement here from the previous daily highs on DXY, and we've taken the sell side liquidity. Possibly we'll take it some more from the previous daily lows here on EU. So I think there may have just been some sort of news announcement. As we can see, price is moving bullish. So what I want to see is for price to, whether we continue in this way, maybe on the M5 if we've broken some structure. So I'm going to draw out a possible trading scenario that I want to see. So we need to see a sweep of sell side liquidity, which we already have, but we may see it happen again. Price to then break above the structure that, let's say it's here for argument's sake, and then now we have our corrective pullback down to an order block and imbalance POI for us to then trade upwards with the sell side liquidity of these lows, the POI of this area with the buy side liquidity swept there to the other side of this range that we have here. So if structure does break and give us what we want, then we'll see a breaker structure around this area, possible inducement around this area from the pullback, a lower time frame order block and imbalance POI, obviously our sell side liquidity sweep, which we already have, so price may form something already, and then we would have our order set at the lows here with our stop loss just below the low, aim in for wherever you aim for. And that's the first sort of opportunity I see. Now I want to see structure form here. If price does happen to have some sort of momentum and break upwards, then we'll wait for some sort of structure to represent this and give me the same feel for the trade, right? But I think another nice sweep of these lows, leaving this structure here, would be really good. Obviously then we'd have mitigated this 1 hour POI, more sell side liquidity, clearer, not this 0.1 pip sweep, and then we'd have that momentum break and pullback for us to trade towards this area. We'll also have the confluence of London, Frankfurt sweeping the sell side liquidity of Asia, of course. Usually then the cycle will be to head for the other side. We have our nice buy side liquidity trend line here for price to target. So I think that'll be a good trade, albeit it looks like we may have that possible week low. We can only trade with our confluences and with the liquidity on side. So I think that's the clearest opportunity. In terms of sells, I'd probably prefer them up here if we are to stay in a range and take some buy side liquidity. So this just the opposite way around up here. For continuations, if we are to head for this possible week low, then I would say we'd need something quite aggressive to the downside. I'm not sure if this low would even survive it, but maybe, you know, something that closes beyond the low like that and then pulls back. But we would obviously have our negatives in order for us to head for this low, because we would have mitigated some buy side liquidity up here, possibly even this previous daily high if the DXY was to go up that high. So we'd have some factors against us and it may not look as favorable. I'm not as confident with shorting at the moment, even though we are going with that order flow with a possible week low. I think I would have to see it at the time to how it forms. So it's very hard for me to annotate. So I'm going to stick with that first opportunity I drew out. Again, the same thing could happen from up here. Once we do mitigate some buy side liquidity, I think that would be the better high probability areas. So I hope that was clear. I hope I was clear and you gained value from that. Any questions, let me know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.